All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 13 of the Backseat Huddle podcast. Today's episode is going to be kind of short because I didn't have a ton of takeaways this week, and I'm not just going to talk bullshit to you guys just for the sake of extending my time. So I'm going to try and keep it to what I feel is important. So to start off the show today, the 9-1 Philadelphia Eagles had a come-from-behind victory against the Colts and walking disgrace of a coach, Jeff Saturday. So the Eagles won ugly, okay? And this is very clearly one of, if not both of two things. They are a young team that is learning how to win close games, and they are a young team that is learning with a young quarterback that is learning how to put together a come from behind victory. It is pretty clear that this team has kind of a flaw in their run D, but that really cleaned itself up thereafter. The first drive, I want to say after that, Jonathan Taylor only averaged about 2-ish yards per carry. But this team, especially defensively, and aside from a couple mental mistakes, actually played pretty well in the second half against the Eagles. So we hear this phrase a lot, or at least we used to, because I'm old. We used to hear this phrase a lot, and we probably still do. The phrase is, they have to learn how to win big games. You've heard that phrase. And I'm sure you've also heard this phrase. They have to learn how to win close games. So let me ask you this, viewer. Why is that grace not given to the Philadelphia Eagles? They have 9 victories out of 10 games. Their average margin of victory has been just over 10 points. This has been a fairly dominant team up to this point in the season in regards to building up leads and running up the clock, which has really been their MO this season. So ask me this. Why would a quarterback with a second-year head coach and who started all of 29 games be amazing at winning close games and having amazing come-from-behind victories? Let's call it how it is with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts once upon a time got benched in college. And now clearly he is, at least in my opinion, looking like the better of those two quarterbacks. But his path is not necessarily the same as every single other quarterback that we have seen come through the NFL. And what I feel like is happening with Jalen Hurts is a skewing of what people think is possible and what is real out of NFL quarterbacks because of Patrick Mahomes. It seems like everybody expects young quarterbacks to come into the league and just be geniuses and amazing and perfect at everything because that's what happened when Patrick Mahomes entered the league. But Patrick Mahomes is the exception, not the rule. So we need to temper our expectations as to what we expect out of these young quarterbacks. The reality is, Jalen Hurts is still a young quarterback leading a young team with a young coach. Let's give Jalen Hurts and the Eagles the opportunity to learn how to win games and learn how to win close games and learn how to win big games. They are winning a lot, and it is part of the maturation process of Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles to learn how to win these games. There are not every single game that the Philadelphia Eagles play is not going to be a 10-point victory. At some point, they need to learn how to dig down and win ugly games. They need to learn how to dig down and come from behind. They need to learn how to win these big games, these close games, okay? So let's give Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles an opportunity to have this maturation process. That's my rant there. The Jets lost to the Patriots 3-10. It was just a lousy game for both teams. And I'm going to tell you some things that you already know. It is officially time to admit that the Jets aren't that good. And they got a serious deficiency at quarterback. The Jets struggling against the Patriots was the most obvious thing. It was just the most predictable thing of the week. I mean, we've seen that graphic before where Bill Belichick is whatever and whatever against young quarterbacks. What reason do we feel that wouldn't continue, especially against the quarterback who has trouble against the pressure and especially against the quarterback who we weren't sure about coming into this season anyway? So there was some optimism, not from me, about this Jets team after that fluky win against the Bills, but it was unfounded. And the Jets just aren't that good. And it's shocking to me that there was discussions that the Jets could possibly go deep in the playoffs. That looks like a really bad, really dumb take by a lot of analysts out there right now. And Zach Wilson has just got to go. This post-game presser is one of the worst I have ever seen in my life. I'm going to go ahead and play that. Sorry for the audio listeners.
As an offense, though, I mean, when you guys are only able to score 3 points, the defense only lets up 3 points. I mean, do you feel like you let the defense down at all?
No. If you listen to that and then you compare it to Josh Allen, who is one of the NFL's best quarterbacks, what he said a week ago, I'll go ahead and play that too.
I mean, it's tough to win in this league when you're playing a good team and your quarterback plays like shit. Made some bad decisions.
Sorry, audio listeners.
Our team.
Quarterback is different, okay? When you're the quarterback, you're the leader of the team. You have to fall on the sword. When you lose, it's your fault. When you win, it's because of the team. That's just how it has to be. And Zach Wilson is clearly not producing on the field and clearly not, I don't know what word to use here, if you will, off the field. And I get it, okay? It's hard. It's easy for me to say, Zach Wilson, you got to do this, as I'm 9 years older probably than Zach Wilson. And it's really easy for me to say. And it's even easier for me to say because I'm not facing the reality of the New York media. The New York media is brutal, okay? But it is what it is. Zach Wilson is the face of the franchise for the New York Jets. He has to step in and take responsibility there. And he did not. He absolutely did not. So it does bring into questions as to what is he doing behind closed doors as well. Now, the Patriots, on the other hand, Mac Jones does not seem like the type to do that. That being said, the Patriots and the Jets are the exact same team. They're the same team. The only difference is the Patriots have an all-time great head coach. Both the Jets and the Patriots are the same team. They have extremely limited quarterbacks leading a run-first offense, both relying on their defense and their defensive head coach to win the football game. And you're just hoping that their quarterback plays just well enough for them to win the game. That's both teams. Mac Jones, meanwhile, I feel bad for him because he seems like a nice kid, seems like a nice dude. But at this point, I feel like we kind of know what Mac Jones is. Mac Jones he's a high caliber backup or a very, very, very high caliber bridge quarterback. And I suspect that they'll move on from Mac Jones after his rookie deal is up. The difference between him and Zappy just isn't big enough to warrant keeping Mac Jones around, unfortunately. I made a joke earlier that Mac Jones is kind of just less handsome Jimmy Garoppolo. They're very, very similar players. I understand why the San Francisco 49ers were so interested in him. Last topic, once again, because I said today was going to be kind of short. The Dallas Cowboys clobbered the Minnesota Vikings 42-3. And there's a few reasons why I'm going to detail for you. This game was significantly more about how the Vikings are not as good as their record implies than it is about the Cowboys being so amazing as to dominate a then 8-1 team. So two things that didn't really get enough play on this is number one is that the Vikings were coming off an extremely emotional, huge win against the Buffalo Bills that we all watched, and they were all hopped up on Mountain Dew about it. And they were primed for a letdown. We've totally seen this happen before. We have totally seen that story where a team coming off a huge win comes the next week and just falls a little flat and disappoints. You've heard that before. You've seen that before. Alternatively, the Cowboys were on the opposite end of the spectrum. They just came off a highly emotional loss against the Green Bay Packers last week, and they were clearly highly motivated to get back on the right track against the Minnesota Vikings. And then there were three main issues in this game that the Vikings ran into. First, the Vikings going into that game had the 22nd ranked pass defense, and their secondary really isn't great. So while I've criticized the Dallas Cowboys for not having enough weapons on the outside, when you're facing a team that doesn't have a great secondary, as the Vikings don't, it allows guys like Noah Brown and Michael Gallup to make an impact. And then we also saw CeeDee Lamb make an amazing catch on the sideline right before halftime. Those kind of things get to happen when your secondary is a weakness and you're playing against a team that does not have a great receiving core. Second, going into that game, the Dallas Cowboys had the number 2 ranked pass defense in the NFL, which is something I'm going to talk about in just a second. And then the Vikings left tackle got hurt. Christian Darrisaw was one of the highest rated left tackles in the NFL. So the reason that the Dallas Cowboys have a really, really good pass defense is that their pass rush is excellent. Okay. And the Vikings love to fall behind. So when you fall behind, what happens? You have to throw the ball, and then your left tackle's out. And then the other team has one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. You can see where I'm going with this. All of those things were apparent very early on. The Cowboys built a lead once again because the Vikings like to fall behind. They had some big plays they capitalized on. They scored. And then the pass rush that is arguably the best in the league got the tee off against an injured offensive line on their second defensive tackle. And they just got to Kirk Cousins over and over and over and over and over again. And at some point for the Vikings, you knew this game was going to happen. I mean, I said it last week. I think everybody knows this, that the way the Vikings were winning is not sustainable. You cannot dig yourself out of a hole each and every single week. And against a team that is built like Dallas is, that is perfect to not let you get back in the game, it just wasn't going to happen. The Minnesota Vikings, their luck just ran out. So that's it. I'm still not buying the Dallas Cowboys as a Super Bowl contender. I think we saw the NFC representative for the Super Bowl Monday night dominating the Arizona Cardinals. But that's a different show. So thank you guys all for tuning in. Take care, everybody.